thanks for coming on, man. For the people out there who don't know who you are, you've been on Fresh Out with me, and we had some great conversation. And circling back to come on my channel, which is more about positivity, motivation, elevation of consciousness. I wanted to have you here so that my audience could get a dose of your game. And if they haven't seen you on Fresh Out, they can get laced up over here. So maybe do like a little introduction to what you do and what your platform is. And then we can start talking about some of this bullshit going on in the Matrix.
Yeah, well, I'm Akiem. I do the same thing, positive motivation, and on my channel, which is on you can look it up by Hindsight Radio or Church of Infinite Abundance. So and I also help people with debt. Help them get rid of debt, like mostly student loans and other BS medical bills and stuff like that. And I also help with properly obtaining your passport the correct way as an American. So that's just some of the things I do. But my main focus is on getting people spiritually attuned with themselves through positive thinking and not get caught up in the matrix sort of thinking how they wanted us to believe, taught us through the school systems. School systems taught us to be one way, and we got to get out of that because it has not led to us being successful at all as a people. So.
It's an interesting dialogue because I look at what everybody entertains themselves with, right? And then when you start getting into like some of the stuff that you teach and some of the stuff I try to share on my channel, like I've been talking about this book right here, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And
right.
It talks about how humans as resources, and if you're basically an idiot, then you don't deserve to have the benefits of a free society. And,
Right.
when you talk about money, Modern Money Mechanics by the Chicago Federal Reserve, and you look at what money is, people have been spending money for decades and don't even know what money means. So, what do you think about that conversation, especially in the communities where, we're so caught up with the superficial, and we wonder, I look at it like this, a lot of people are getting punished for lack of knowledge.
Yeah. That goes to what you're saying about if you're an idiot, you don't deserve the give me a second, Zach. I mean, how do I turn these notifications off? But if you don't study, you don't deserve the benefits of a free society. You deserve to be a slave. Here's why: because the information is out there for you to read and comprehend, but we've allowed our education to be put in a box, meaning steered towards our public school systems, and we complain that it doesn't work. Yes, it works because the way it was designed is working properly. That's the part that people don't get. Yes, all of that works the way it's supposed to work. It's training you to go out there and work for someone, be someone else's slave. And if you look at people, they sit around and they're happy about it, right? Especially like when we talk about this stuff, you start talking about something different, like, what? I don't know nothing about that. If it's outside of the realm of that information, they get confused, or they're like, why do I need to know that? And that's it. And that's the thing. You should be hungry for knowledge. You should be hungry to look behind the veil of what you're doing, because everything that you're encouraged to do has an agenda, regardless of what it is.
But like you said, you got to do the research, though. When you talk about school, like even that, let's talk about the school system in general. Like you said, public schools. Like whenever I drive through LA and I look at the public schools over by USC, they look like little prisons. Like, so the mental visualization, there's not a lot of transition. When you go from that and you happen to get locked up, there's not a lot of resistance. because you've
No.
already been groomed for that. Now, when you go back and you look at like some of the schools that have like a nature preserve and it's very open for studious activity, and the teachers are very happy to be there, and you like, what the hell? This is like a wonderland, and your mind is able to grasp things at a level that's so elevated. So people don't even realize, because most of people in that environment have never even seen how the other side lives. And when you go back to the history, the Rockefellers are the one who created the public school system for a reason. J.P. Morgan, the Carnegies, they needed workers, factory people, steel mill people, railroad people, people to dig for their oil for them. They weren't going to do it. And that's why they created those. And then they have the Ivy Leagues. Mm-hmm. So,
well, Horace Mann went over to Prussia, which we call Germany, to figure out how Hitler was able to get those young people to do all of those, things against the Jews. He's like, how did he do it? He did it through propaganda and education over a generation of people. So by the time he was ready to make his move, they was just following his orders without resistance.
No question.
So when you really look at our country, how it is right now, we're not too far off from that.
We are that.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it. You look at it. You look at what's going on now, and you think about it, Akiem. Like, just to say, for instance, they said the average person's mind doesn't really come to a state of awareness until it's late 20s, right? Maybe early 30s, but late 20s, where you can actually, reflect and comprehend conscious choices. So when you think about what they're doing, just even in the educational level with the programming, asking a 7 or 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old who they are. What do you, I mean, dude, really? You're asking a kid, or would you ask a kid if he wants to do a line of coke? Mm-hmm. Would you ask a little kid if he wanted to, he says, hey, Akiem, I'm gonna hit this crack pipe. You sure? I mean, would you do that? So when you think about, you're giving a kid a choice, the reason why we have adults and elders is to give these kids an opportunity so we can guide them. We're not, they're not ready at that age to be making decisions. So why are they putting these choices on kids who have no idea who they are?
Because the reason why is because they just want to create biological robots, people who just follow orders. If you look at the structure of the school, like you were saying, let me close this out. Give me a second. If you look at what you just said about how the schools look like prisons, not only do they look like prisons, they're actually built off the prison model. They're the same architecture. Just they don't have barbed wire and all kinds of other things. It's keeping the kids out. You can just walk right in there. But if you look at the teachers, if you remember how you was in school, how you had to walk down a certain side of the hallway, you had to be quiet all the time. And it's the same thing when you're
right. Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I got in trouble and they got this Scared Straight type program, and it was making us do just like we do in school, hold each other's hand, walking down this hallway, all of this craziness. And then the CEOs were acting all bullyish and stuff like that. You know where another place you see that at? The airport. At the airport, what you say?
Yeah.
They yell at you, put yourself. And then this one, like I was at the airport on Friday, this one lady was telling people, move to the side, get over. She wasn't even being polite or anything. I was like, I said to myself, I said to the guy behind me, she got CO vibes. I was like,
well, think about what they did during the pandemic when you were going to the grocery store. Keep 6 feet, stay to the line. Remember they had the arrows on the thing going, you couldn't go down this aisle this way. You had to go.
That was just the stupidest thing. And people, do you realize there are people still following that? And not even being told to do it. They're just doing it automatically. See, it's just so easy to program people. I watched this video. You might have come across it. This guy's got 2 circles on a board. One was blue, one was red. And the first thing he said, if you guys thinking that both these circles are exact same size, you're sadly mistaken. They're not. So then he said, well, how many people think the blue circle is bigger than the red circle? And some people raised their hand. He said, how many people believe the red circle is bigger than the blue circle? Some people raised their hand. Then he said, He said, you know what just happened? It just shows how easily you could be manipulated. Both of these circles are exact same size. He said, it goes to show you people could say anything to you, and you know that they were the same size, but all I did was tell you it wasn't, and you believed me. So people are easily manipulated. Why? Because that education is manipulative. It is what you call social engineering.
Yeah, yeah.
Social engineering, because everybody's socially engineered to force their kids into school, then force them into jobs. You know how many kids I come across that, they don't really know what they want to do. Their parents say, oh, you're going to college. You're going to figure it out through that. You got to get what they call it being well-rounded. And I'm like, well-rounded how? Well-rounded to do exactly what you're doing. And people that say this is like, I got a buddy who says he hates his job. He's sick of it. But he's forcing his kid to do the same thing. Like, why would you force your kid to do something you're hating right now? Like, go find something to do. Like, let the kid be creative and come up with his own plan and figure out how to make his own money. There's so much money to be made out there. It's a lot of money to be made out there on your own. You don't need to go get a job or a career to do it.
You know what, though? I was looking for something in here because it talked about that. But, it's what you just said about that gentleman is the reason why that they said the most gifted people in the lower echelon, and I'm not saying this to be, derogatory, but what's considered the lower echelon of society will never be able to figure out the tools or the devices used by those which are quote unquote considered the more elite groups and how they operate, because their education is such that of a low quality that it's an impossibility. Because what you just said is something that's conditioning him. So even though he's miserable, he's still conditioning his kid for the same path. And so when you take that, and the only way this changes is when, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when one of these individuals in this lower echelon has a talent that's not necessarily, some of these kids get able to make it through scholarships, but as far as education, but through athleticism. And then they go to a college where they're around a different group of kids, and then they make it into a circle, and they get up there and they're like, oh my God. And then what do we usually hear about those guys? Sometimes they self-destruct, sometimes they do some crazy shit because it doesn't compete with their world. They it's almost like a panic mode, like, wait a minute, I got all this money, I got this girl, I'm in this light, but this is not
came from their program.
Exactly, dude. Why do you think you have guys like, this guy, he's scoring 30 points, he's 10 assists and blah blah blah. But then he gets caught with a pistol, pulling a gun on somebody, or you're like, oh, so you're like, this dude brought a gun to the locker room?
Think about it. I mean, I don't see why they're surprised by that. Like, they're listening to this rap music that talks about that all the time, and the guys that's rapping about it don't even live like that. Like Tupac, he wasn't a gangster, but he had gangster rap. Yeah, I mean, there was an interview out there. He was talking like he was a little on the funny side.
He went to a theatrical school. They were, you learn how to be an actress, artist, composer. I mean, dude, he was around very smart kids. Then he moved to Marin and was hanging out around some little dudes. But then it's like you said, that street impression.
He wasn't a thug. That's not how he was brought up.
But
that rapped about, the things he rapped about wasn't his life. They come to find out later on, his mother told him his dad was dead, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
So, I saw an interview of him. I said, Dad, that guy, you had to. It's an old interview of, just look at an old interview of Tupac Shakur before he was a rapper. I don't know if you ever saw it, dude. Totally different persona.
Yeah, but even when you go back to when we look at early hip hop, Special Ed, Big Daddy Kane, King's Son, Brand Nubians. And then you looked at like everybody was, everybody was like, man, looking at Kwame Tumah, Malcolm X, everybody was kind of conscious. And then it went to a direction where, F the police, I make it about a G a week, F school. You know what I mean? So you're thinking like, hold on, why should I go to school if I make a G a week?
See, we had the era of when the groups came together talking about self-destruction, how we were self-destructing. And you look at how the crime rates in our neighborhood went up when they changed to the gangster rap and the battle rapping and to the promotion of violence against one rap group to the other. They started making money off of that. That caught on.
Why do you think they got rid of breaking?
Right.
Remember?
Right. Where they got rid of breaking. And then breaking, remember how breaking was? They used to say those were gangbangers.
Yes. It's
because they were dancing on the street. They were gangbangers.
Yeah.
Now you look at the JCPenney commercials, they doing the same stuff. The police were rounding kids up because they were on the corner dancing to get donations.
Yeah. I remember.
They weren't selling drugs. They weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
But they told them, and the news is gangbangers this and gang. I remember this growing up. And now every nationality is doing breakdancing, what we call breakdancing back then.
But it was nonviolent. It was constructive. Instead of fighting, you like, hey, you guys don't fight, Akiem. Call him out. You do your moves, he does his moves. Afterwards,
right?
You shake hands.
Right. That was a battle, and battle rapping was a thing back then too. But it wasn't battle rapping to put each other down. It was just who had the best lyrics. Then the battle rapping turned to the violence, shooting and stuff like that.
It became the beef.
Yeah, it came to be a beef, and then people started taking it personal. And I think some of the drama was orchestrated just to get sales.
Do you remember the first battle rap?
The first battle rap that I could remember was the UTFO group.
Okay. And who they battle?
I can't remember because it was like the whole Roxanne going back and forth. Remember that whole Roxanne?
Okay. Now, even before that, it was Cold Crush Crew versus the Furious Five, I think.
Oh, yeah. You talking like early 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Roxanne Shante it was UTFO, Roxanne Shante, and then I think they were going against Shadi or somebody else. Remember, they were going back and forth?
Right. Then you had Queen Latifah when she was conscious, when she was rapping on conscious things.
And then Kumo D and LL Cool J.
Yeah. Yep. It was a lot of.
But it was fun times.
It was fun times. It wasn't about, shooting each other and killing, murder and stuff like that. Then it turned into a whole new game. And the music industry has capitalized on violence against each other. They made a lot of money off of that, and they continue to do it now. The degradation of the Black community through rap music and other entertainment is big money for these record companies.
What else is it? You know what else it is?
It's a form of keeping the slaves in check,
and it's a prison commercial.
Yeah, it's marketing to get you into prison. Yeah,
because they can't advertise. You can go to prison, get 3 meals, have a babysitter, have a room and board. They can't advertise that. So if they can show you through Akiem, go get an unregistered gun, walk around with it, go sell you some drugs, shoot at this dude or shoot at this house, accidentally kill a baby. And then at 17, you're looking at being convicted as an adult.
Now you're a lifer making money for the system because they get paid to keep them there.
Yeah.
It's money.
It's I don't know, man. Me and my childhood friend was talking about this the other day, and just how the conditioning, and even when I was on the streets, like not on the streets, but when I was hustling, and the first time I got into selling crack, I remember I was a straight A student, but I was seeing these guys who looked like they had money and they were getting at all the cheerleaders, and most of these dudes were really out of pocket because they were older than these girls, R. Kelly motherfuckers, and they were coming to the high school talking to 15, 16, 17-year-olds. But
yeah. But way back then, no one was going to jail for that. That was almost like kind of the norm.
It was.
That was the norm. Now, all of those guys who were doing it like Puff Daddy, all of this stuff is coming out. This stuff was happening in 2003.
Yeah.
Now, he's going to jail.
Well, going back to that, we looked at it like these guys are out of school and everybody knew them, but they're like, hey, they're still cool with these guys up here dating these young girls. And we didn't think nothing of it, but like you said,
we didn't even think about that like that.
We didn't think about it. You were just trying to get some money so the girls would like you more. If you had the same stuff they had, but coming forward,
you was trying to get to that level where they were.
Yes,
you were trying to get where they were.
But that's how powerful the influence was for us to want to emulate these guys outside of school. And these guys, these weren't the doctors, they weren't the lawyers. I never met a guy who was a pilot, a lawyer, a doctor. I never knew nobody who owned a corporation in high school. No, I never heard of that.
That was unheard of. Yeah, everybody you knew, they had regular jobs, they had a city job, state job.
And that was supposed to be the good job.
Those are the good jobs because they had the good benefits and all that.
Or if you work for, remember the phone company, AT&T.
Yeah. Those were the jobs that you were promoted or pushed into trying to get when you got out of school.
Or the military.
Yeah. Yeah, military not so much in my home because we raised as Jehovah's Witness, they didn't believe in military service. But everything else, that's without, hey, get this job. You'll be secure in this. It was just basically teaching you how to be broke. When you really look at it, it was teaching you how to be broke.
Well, I got my first business license at 16, and I still have a copy of it. And I remember when I went to do that, it was like I had nobody in my immediate family or circle that I could ask for help. I literally had to go to the Yellow Pages, try to figure out where to go get my business license. I had to ask somebody else and dude, how do you get that? Where do you go? What do you file? And I remember starting a clothing company, and there wasn't much support because everybody's like, you're trying to do something and create a job. Just go work for somebody. So the mentality wasn't entrepreneurial.
Yeah, it's too hard to look up to find to start your own business just to get the license. And that's the issue. The system has hardwired people just to work for other people so bad that to even do the smallest amount of research on how to be in business for yourself is too much for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I give you a perfect example. A few weeks ago, after I got back from Chicago, I went to this get together, and this woman was there. She's into organizing stuff. Like she's very anal about keeping things organized. So I said, have you ever thought about that as a business? She's like, yeah, I thought about it. And so she was like, so I gave a suggestion. It's this app called Thumbtack where you could put your services on there, no matter what it is, and people will hire you to do it. I said, I think you can make some good money with that. She was like, yeah, but I got my regular job. Then I have my second job at Trader Joe's. That kind of gets in the way. So her mind is so programmed to work for people, she can't give up the Trader Joe's job to build the other job. She would get people to hire her, and she can make way more in less amount of time than sitting up there clocking in and out at Trader Joe's. But the thought pattern of most working people is that's normal. To you and I, that's not normal. It's like, are you crazy? You could make way more money and have less, guidelines to follow doing your own thing. I'm not saying quit your job, your main job, but if you're just trying to make some extra cash, some side income, you love to organize. This is all she talks about. There you go. People bring you into their home. I would hire her. to organize some
And
things.
there's people making a lot of money. You see it all the time on the what is it that home network where people go into the house and show you how to do your closet,
Right.
do all. They're making big money doing that for people, and
Right.
that's a hustle, you know. So
Right. She would have made money easily, but
yeah,
she found every which way to shoot the idea down through a job.
you know,
Right.
you when you say that, there's a guy I knew. He used to work on my cars. This guy was a Porsche master mechanic. Guys would send him engines from out of state. He would take them apart, build them up, send them back. Those guys would put the engines back in the cars. And then I would see these cars at concours shows. And the guy would be like, yeah, I built this car. I said, dude, no, I know the guy who built that motor. You didn't build the whole car. You put the motor in, but the guy did a lot of the stuff you couldn't do. Cause I remember this car in his garage. And this guy used to tell him, I said, dude, I be seeing your work all the time. You could make a lot of money. And you're like, oh yeah, and you know, and the guy ended up going to get a job for the city. He works for the city now, and he was killing it. He was killing it. Akiem, he was making. This dude literally worked in his garage, didn't have to go clock in. You know, had his own freedom, but he said he worked for the city.
Somebody convinced him to go get some benefits.
Yeah, he's got he don't have to worry about paying medical now. He's got his paid vacation. I'm like, wow, man.
You really go to the doctor, really. You know, if you're healthy, you're not seeing the doctor all the time.
Dude.
And a lot of times, if you just keep your diet straight, you won't even ever see a doctor.
Again, you know, the program, no, this guy was, I'm like, dude, I don't get it. I mean, literally people would ship cars from across the country. And he's happy now. He's like, yeah. I said, how you like your job? He said, it's cool. I got a couple cool coworkers, you know. And it's like literally to get back into that matrix of working like everybody else, he feels like he's part of a community now.
Right. A community of broke people. that's his community. And that's the thing. That's why I'm very careful about who I hang around. Because with jobs, you're gonna start wanting a job.
Yes.
And that was his problem. He started hanging out with people who had jobs, and eventually they convinced him inadvertently or right out for him to get a job. Because they'll talk. See, when you're around with people with jobs that have these everyday jobs, all they talk about is their benefits.
You know who got him?
Off and things like that.
His wife.
Right.
He had a job. She wanted him to go to a job because she came home and he would be home every day.
So she wanted him to be just like her, and he was making good money. He probably was making more money doing these cars.
Oh, dude, he was killing it, Akiem. He would have 3 cars, 2 cars in the back, one in the thing, and then 1 or 2 out front. He had just finished. He was killing it, bro. He was killing it, Akiem. I mean, literally, this guy. I didn't even go to a regular shop. I just go to his house, killing it.
Now, when you say his wife convinced him to get a job, that's what society has done. They have programmed the minds of women against their own households. So that's how they used to get slaves, right? To follow. Like if they wanted a horse to obey, what they do is get the mother first. Then all the children would follow. She would encourage them to do the same thing. That's the same thing with us.
You're right.
See, we think the attack is really on men. It really isn't. It's really on women. The attack, the influence is always on the woman, because what is she going to do? She's going to most likely train her children the way she is. You see how, look at it. Look at these single mom homes. I always say it. Look at the single mom home. They're the ones, for the most part, promoting the transgenderism in their children. They're for it. And if there is a 2-parent home, it's the woman taking a charge in the lead and convincing the man to go along with that. You see? Where they like this kid's going to schools, boys with dresses on. I mean, I'm talking about toddlers, not in high school, toddlers.
Where are the fathers at in all this?
In this particular family, the father's right there encouraging it. So what I'm saying is, this society has done a great job at getting our women to be against their own households where they think they're doing what's good for the household, but what they're really doing is what's good for what the system wants them to do.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Think about, if you take us way back, let's go 4 or 5 generations ago, where it was typical for only the man to work. The woman had all of the free time at home. Yes, she was with the children, but she didn't have to go out and deal with any of that nonsense. But the bigger thing is, she didn't have to have her income taxed. Now, when you have 2-parent working homes, which we don't even have that much anymore, both man and a woman are being taxed. So the whole promotion of the woman going to the work and the feminism movement was really to generate more tax revenue. Then they also did these studies. They already studied what would happen if both parents worked. They knew that it would break up the family most likely. Now, while they were in the, when the child support laws were really taking its traction, that was mostly in the 80s into the 90s, and then it really took hold like towards the end of the 90s, and then it was really on par. But that was right on par and on time with how more women were coming into the workplace. Now, if that would break up the home, they would get a divorce and they throw the man on child support. Now the state gets to make money off of those cases. You see, they get paid to collect child support. I keep telling people, they get paid. So the whole system's agenda is to create revenue by making the people who are subject to them slaves to them. The whole system is designed that way. And the only way you can remove yourself from it is not to buy into the whole from school to college to job concept. See, that whole scenario is a recipe for being broke for the rest of your life, being in debt for the rest of your life. That whole model, that's what it's for, and that's what they want, to be in debt, because they give college students credit cards as soon as they hit college.
And they also say, like, a lot of the guys, if you were to go through and do a census of men in prison for murder who committed murder,
that's a very low number.
Well, a lot of the ones who have, it's usually because of a feminine tendency, like the guy was emotional. See, right. Men are natural. We should be rational. Usually, if you had a male in the house, a father, he's going to rationalize things before he tells you to. He's not going to tell you to go shoot a dude because you lost a fight or because you got embarrassed. But women are emotional. They cry. They, not to say that that's a bad thing, because that's what a woman brings to a nurturing relationship. And men brings a stability, a foundation, a ability to see things and to work out options. And so he's not going to react like that. But a lot of these guys basically reacted, and then later on, it's too late by then. They're sitting in the pen like with 30 years, like, man, why'd I do that? And I think a lot of it has to come with lack of that male, presence in their life at a certain time. Not to say that if you didn't have a 2-parent household, this couldn't happen, but usually you learn things from your father that teach you to deal with adversity or challenges without resulting in taking a man's life.
It's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
That they have a better percentage rate of not finding themselves in that situation when you have 2 parents especially if the father's involved.
Yes.
I was watching. There was an interview that Joe Brown did with some podcast. It was not too long ago, but he was breaking down in this court this generation.
Oh, it was on the Valuetainment.
Right. You talk about that woman. Yes. Had all of the children. They were all on public assistance, and he traced your genealogy like into the millions and he said there was only 2 people out of that family that ever got a job. 2 out of all of those people, 2 of them got a job, and those are the 2 the fathers came and got out of the home. So now they know the studies showed that fathers do a better job raising the children. They got studies that show this.
I know, but they don't. Yeah, I know.
From a religious point of view on to this regular point of view. The old study was they wanted to see if children was continue to go to church, depending on what parent they was with.
Yeah.
So the study showed that 30 to 40% of the children would not continue to go to church if they were only being brought to church by the mother, right? But if both parents were together and they all went to church, there was a 30 to 40% that they would continue after they left the home. Guess what? Without the mother and just the father, the study showed same 30, 40% would still go to church if the father was taking the lead in that. Without the mother, if the father was raising the child. They know that men bring a structure to the family. Only men have a certain way about them that really bring law and order into the arrangement.
Right. You're absolutely right.
But this system is designed to go against that. Why? Because it doesn't make the prisons money. It doesn't make the court money if people weren't getting a divorce or children weren't getting in trouble. See, people have to realize this system is designed to destroy the family so that it can survive. Without all of this dysfunction in society, our court systems will fall apart. A lot of people wouldn't have jobs.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the dysfunctionality is a part of sustainability with the current system and to keep it perpetuating making money. And then they also parade around and use certain people of influence to propagate certain narratives, whether they use Nick Cannon, bragging about 12 kids, he's seen,
all that nonsense.
You know what I mean? Or you have what's his name? What's his name used to play for the Miami Heat. I'm talking about. He's
oh, you talking about Dwayne Wade?
Wayne Wade. I mean, dude, when he had his son
allowing his kid to be transitioned at a young age.
Dude, this is my thing is like, whatever you got going on privately, why are you the face of it? You know what I mean? Plus the kid, you mean to tell me a 15-year-old kid?
My question is, why are you encouraging your kid to transition at a young age? Any self-respecting adult, and I've even heard some of the people from that community say that's not right.
Yes, they have said it's not right.
We all know as children, well, when we were children, we didn't make the best decisions. We had all kinds of crazy ideas. If I was able to run with some of the crazy ideas I had as a young kid, I'd be in trouble. You have to, okay, if you want to still do that, you wait till you get out of my house. Then you could do it. Then you make your own decision. But while you're here, this is the way things are going to be. We live in the times where children just say they want to do something, they're just letting them do it. And that's a big decision.
How many times when we were little, you said, hey, today, man, I'm going to be Batman, you be Aquaman. Hey, man, I'm going to be Spider-Man, you be Superman. Dude, these are pretend people, and you might wear that little T-shirt, but you weren't going to turn around and start taking PEDs to be Superman. You know what I mean?
It's crazy how it's crazy. Some of the stuff, I just think we're in a twilight zone. Like, what dimension are we in? Did we just switch? Something just flipped the switch and we just, now we're just ignoring reality now? And just going along with everybody's imagination of what they want to be? And getting upset because I don't want to buy into it. Like,
yeah, they're mad at you because you don't want to say 2 + 2 = 5.
Right. Right. I'm like, dude, I'm like this. If you can't have children like a woman, then you're not a woman to me. Yeah. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah, I know, man. I agree with you. It blows me away. And I just sit back and I see like the different, platforms that, have certain narratives, and then the views, and then the platforms that really have the knowledge, like we're talking, or even sharing really insight, it gets no views. But, that's a part of the
thing is they purposely throttle it. They purposely hinder people from getting to the truth.
Yeah.
Or talking about positive messages. Like I'll do a live and I see all these people on their live. Then I go to like after the fact to see what the views are. It'll be half of what they say was up there. I'm like, it's just, and I know it's not a human doing it. It's an algorithm. It's an AI. That's okay. That's targeting certain video. If I want to talk about everything ratchet, I could get all of that I mean, as much as I want, but to find positive stuff on my feed, I have to go type in a search and get it. You know, did you see that Charleston White interview?
Yeah, with Cam Newton.
Yeah, did you see that? That's got 3 million views. He said it was going to break the internet.
Yeah.
You know, that the views that he would get on that. But what did you think about that? Like that,
well, you know, Charleston White, very interesting guy. I mean, he's a character, you know,
right.
and I'm not saying
that
he's funny. He said the character, but he makes sense, and he calls it out. He said, like, you know, King Von is he was a serial killer. These guys who brag about this, you know, we're worshiping people in the Black community that are actually demons, you know, and we're giving them praise. They're getting the bag. You know, we're giving the bag to women that are hoes, that have no,
right?
You know, they're not taking care of their kids. I mean, you know, he breaks down all the things that are problematic in the Black community, but then we point the finger. And then, you know, when you have, like he said, you know, he'll mention something about Trump. He says, I love Trump. You know what I mean? Because, you know, what he stands for. And then the Black community, you know, they don't want accountability. And that's the biggest thing. And coming from him, because people, you know, don't have a tendency to take him serious, but when they look at it, what he says, he's on point.
He made a lot of points, very good points.
Yeah. He does. He
even said this. I had to act ignorant for them to listen.
Well, you know who else said that? Nipsey said, starting off, he had to rap a certain way to get his audience base.
Mm-hmm.
You notice, before Nipsey passed away, was murdered, you know, he wasn't talking about, he was talking about travel, elevating, bringing the whole out the hood. So imagine if you had a gang messiah talking about, hold on, man, you guys, we can go to see the Amazon forest. We can travel over here. Do you think they want gang members going to Denmark, traveling to Switzerland, getting into banking, talking about investing in crypto? You know, dude, we don't want these Negroes leaving the hood. Shut his ass down, because he was the only.
The thing about getting hustlers or street guys out of the hood, they're very smart people.
Very smart.
They're very intelligent. So they would do well in those fields. And besides, everybody in banking, most of these guys in banking are crooks anyway. They just ain't got the thug label on them.
Yes.
So they get away with that stuff. The ones they catch is a small number compared to the rest of the ones that are crooks out there. You know, they always have, you know, a couple of their people be sacrificial lambs just to throw the distraction off the whole big system.
Yeah.
So, but way these guys run the streets, they would be able to run banking, you know, run circles, but they don't want that. They don't want them to get there.
You know,
and poison your people and keep them down. Keep them your foot on their neck.
Well, the thing is too, when you're like, I've been overseas, and I know you've traveled, but when you're an actual American Black and you go to some of these other countries, and when they say, man, you're American, not African, they're blown away. I remember meeting people in Japan and Tokyo, and they're like, you're American? Oh man, not African? Because Africans travel. They're doing shit. Nigerians, those dudes got passports.
You go everywhere. Yeah.
They're everywhere. You know,
and they speak multiple languages.
Usually speak French, English, and their native tongue, and maybe a third, you know, like you said. But Blacks from America, when, you know, unless they're in the military, you know, but traveling abroad, it brings a certain amount of awareness, because their assumption when they see us is that they think of colors, boys in the hood, or they think of like these kids stealing.
Getting over there.
Yeah, the imagery they see of us is beating up people on the street. It's not a good look.
Right.
So, yeah, man, it's just very interesting. When I, you know, like I said, I watched part of the interview. I didn't watch the whole time, listen to it, but he was.
Yeah, I watched it all the way through. I had to take a break and then go back to it.
Yeah,
but it was actually a very good interview. It was actually a very good interview. There was some junctures in there where I said, man, he's talking crazy. But when you really, you have to watch it all the way through to really see what he's really all about.
Well, when he talked about the single moms,
right?
And he talks about how your mom that's a hoe, and how your uncle, you got cousins that are pimps, and an influence. He makes a lot of sense, bro. I mean, it really shows you why these young men are coming out like this, because and like
Right.
his brother at 8 years old said, "I'm gonna kill somebody when I turn," and how he killed somebody at 17. The anger, which comes from lack of the father in the house,
Lack of, being taught self-control.
yeah, yeah, a lot of it's a lot of good things. I got from him, and even I talk about that all the time. Like, even when I was in juvenile hall, and I think about young men, and when I used to go to the visiting, and my mom would show up, and I'm looking around in the visiting, I see this other guy's mom. She's gang banged out. I see this dude. He don't have a dad, but his uncle's there. He's cripped out. I mean, dude, I was like looking around. I didn't really think at the time, but looking back, and how we're set up to fail. You're already set up to fail once you get into that system, man.
It's all about your environment and what you're exposed to at a very early age.
Yes.
And unfortunately, in our community, most of us are not exposed to anything positive at a very young age. That's, we go to school, they teach us all this nonsense, and then everybody in the neighborhood got a broke mentality or get over mentality. We can come out of our situation if we start studying, really knowing what's going on outside of what's being given us. But the issue is most people don't want that. They enjoy, like he said, they enjoy their sports, idolizing and making a religion out of these celebrities. Like, one thing I like what he said was, y'all worrying about what, like Cam kept getting on him about the stuff he said. He said, why are you worrying about what I'm saying? You're not saying that to the rappers.
That's right.
You're not saying it to them. They're saying whatever. They calling people hoes and bees and all of this stuff and talking about all of these things. But yet when I say it, it's a problem.
Yeah.
No, check them.
Yeah.
They're very selective about who they want to get on, about who they can and can't say something.
Well, even when he told Cam about, like, these niggas run around like they still 30, nigga, you 40. Act like you got some sense. Act like you have responsibility, like you just ain't out here having random babies like everybody else, because you have a responsibility now. And you're like, oh man, why you say that? He said, dude, because you have a certain maturity level responsibility. You cannot disown that. But a lot of you guys don't want to do it. It's almost like they call it what they call the term that Nas said, living a second childhood. These guys that get out of prison and they're the same age they went to prison. So dude is acting like he's 19, 20 when he's like damn near 40, but he did so much time, his mind never developed.
Right. And another big part that I thought he was right on when it comes to the sports celebrities, like he was talking about Deion Sanders.
What do you say about him?
He was like, F him, because he had, he worked there. He was working at the HBCU. Then he got that big contract. Is it Deion's son? Yeah.
Yeah. Deion went from an HBCU to Colorado State.
To Colorado State, which is a 90% white school, right? And he was like, we can't say that about Deion Sanders because he brought awareness to the program. He did this. He said, but yeah, he left it and went to a all-white school pretty much, and he left the HBCU behind. He said, what about those kids he left behind? They're saying that, so I'm saying what they say. He said, what the point he was trying to make, they take our best and our brightest and bring them over to their programs and leave our HBCU, what's supposed to be our HBCUs, with nothing, the leftovers. And that happens all the time.
What do you do in a situation like that, Akiem? If you're in a situation like that, where you're at one of these institutions, but like they're not providing you with enough funding, or you've showed that your performance is making a difference, but you have certain people in those places that aren't basically putting their money where their mouth is, do you stay and continue to basically be a martyr to help the people, or do you try to say that, hey, I can compete at a higher level and go and worry about my family, because you're trying to.
But that's the point Cam was making. Like, okay, what do you do in that situation? But I felt the same way. I went along the same lines, but Charleston White made a good point. He said somebody's got to make the sacrifice for us. Because what happens to the money? Because while he was at the APCU, it brought the money there, right? Now the money is going where? Because who do the fans follow? Deion Sanders, right? They following him. So wherever he go, the fans are going to go. So that fan base that was going to the HBCU is now transitioned over there.
Now, do you become a whooping post, though, for your people who don't really respect
I don't say you become a whooping post, but I see both points. It's very...
No, I'm just playing devil's advocate because I see what you're saying, but at the same, all I'm saying is that when you're dealing with that, and then you're looking like, dude, you guys, I've made this money and I can leverage what we've created, but you don't want to give it to me. You still don't want to provide the resources, but yet, so you're putting me against a rock and a hard place to right. Make a choice.
But his point was Deion Sanders didn't really need the extra money. He already had money.
Oh, but who are he to judge a man's ambition for his family?
But his the bigger point that I saw him making was this, and it's true across the board. Our best and our brightest goes to those predominantly controlled by the white establishment and make them rich, and we keep the economy going.
I agree with you.
Our economy is suffering. So he was saying, well, we create our own league.
Okay.
Our best and insulate our best and go. If they wasn't going to do it, find somewhere else to do it. But why take it over there to create an economy in the other communities? Just think about it. Let's look at it as a
you know what you just said. What you just said is almost like when they had the Negro League. The Negro
That's
League,
what he actually brought that up. He did. Yeah,
the Negro League. And I used to watch baseball. My grandfather had old videos. I would watch the old VHS tapes of the Negro League. Right. And the Negro League was on some other shit. Them brothers were, but they only made like $20 a month. They didn't get paid anything. Now, some of the exhibition games, I don't know if people noticed, but Babe Ruth used to play in some of the Negro League games and would donate his full payment to the brothers that played with him to help expose them, to show that they had the ability to play in the majors if they wanted to, but because of the racial thing, these people felt like they would, they didn't want these guys to be on the same recognizable level as these guys in what's considered the MLB.
Right. Now, the reason why I lean towards Charleston Wright on the point he was making was this. If you go back to the Civil Rights Movement, and he actually touched on this, we had our own bus companies.
Yeah, yes.
Right? During this time.
Yeah.
But we were fighting to get on their bus.
Yeah.
And that's what put our bus companies out of business.
You're right. I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
So, the whole Civil Rights Movement, to me, was a psyop to keep us from having our own.
That actually did more damage than the burning of Black Wall Street because it destroyed our Black economy.
Right. So that's basically on par with the point I'm trying to make. My second point is, look at the other groups of people, the other ethnic groups. Let's say the Asians and the Indian groups, right? Even the white groups. When they create something, they create it for themselves. How many people you go into a Asian store and you see any of us working in there or in their places of business? Almost never. Right? Never. Only place you'll see us working is in one of them beauty supply stores because they need somebody to speak the language to the Black folks.
Yeah.
Right? But every other establishment, they got their own people. Now, and here's the thing. I'm not against that. I'm not against that at all. I'm for, you creating some economy for your people. White people, you create your economy for your people, right? I'm good. But we need to do the same thing.
No, you know what? If we had any
take responsibility and do the same thing for our people instead of taking our money and giving it away to everybody else and keeping their economy going while ours is suffering. We're taking care of other groups of people's economy, and our economy is suffering at the bottom. Well, we don't have anything.
It's almost the same as when they were saying, "Oh, well, we're they're robbing the stores because they said we're not, these stores are exploiting us. But now, if you're a local store and you have a guy there, you won't shop at my store, but you'll go to Target and Walmart and buy their shit, even though so the psychology behind I've dealt with, I've had products, protein powder, pre-work, different things. And when people see it, they're like, is this your stuff? I'm like, yeah. They're like, how'd you do this? I said, well, blah, blah, blah.
I know how you did something. You're like,
how does they're like, hey man, hook me up. But then I just seen you go to GNC. You didn't tell GNC to hook you up.
Right. You didn't ask them how they set up their business or anything, or you didn't even ask them for a discount. You know, that's the problem we have in our community.
Yes.
That's our problem. And that's what Charleston White says. We idolize all of the superstars, give them all of our money, and look at our communities. It's trash.
Yeah, yeah.
Call it a day. Let's call it what it is. And whose fault is that? It's yes, we were systematically blackballed, a long time ago, but we have the opportunity and the money now. We have so many celebrities with money that we can build a whole new economy for ourselves.
Yeah. 10 times over.
But that's not allowed. When they get to those levels, they're not allowed to promote Black wellness when it comes to the economy. They're not allowed to.
Even with the 3-on-3 thing, the big three that Ice Cube was doing, how they didn't want him to have that other league because the NBA felt like it was like threatening their dominance in basketball, even though these guys are retired.
Right. If they're dominating, what they're worried about.
Yeah. Well, because like you said, that's sleeping
so good. What are you worried about some smaller league coming in and taking?
Well, and these are old players. These guys aren't even playing anymore.
Right. But see, we didn't rally behind him when he did that.
No, and to make your point is, Akiem, you mean to tell me if we can get these retired guys and get this type of support, viewership, what if we got some younger guys?
Right.
That's scary. Now we start
take over. It would literally take over the NBA because I don't even watch the NBA anymore. I don't watch NFL. I don't watch none of those major sports anymore. I think we come to a time we got to make a decision who we going to support.
That's right.
Because none of these big sports arenas are doing anything for our community other than taking our best out of it and using them to make money. That's it.
And getting us to buy the jerseys, the memorabilia, all the merchandise.
And that's the point that Charleston White was bringing. He said somebody's got to make a sacrifice in order for the future. And to your point, I've said it too. Well, these niggas ain't gonna they're not gonna support me. We think like that, but then at the same time, when we like, how long are we gonna allow this thing to go on?
Well, okay, we meet in private. Me and you, Charleston White, bunch of people, we decide to say, do this. How strong is that going to be? Because we need at least 2 or 3 generations of the same mindset we have to break it. These dudes will get in there and somebody be infiltrating us. They'll go back and tell the head of the NFL, they're trying to start a Negro league. And dude, it's like...
Yes, well, I mean, just think about it. Any great thing had met a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
It was a war. A war. I mean, just look at the follow the trend of how even countries come into existence is always an uprising, is always a bucking, and going through a transition of war in order to get there. Yeah. Think about it. We have been at war on our families for decades now.
Yeah.
And they're winning.
Yeah. Well, you
can say they won.
It started in the 40s and 50s when they seen us basically, independent, sharp banks, our own real estate firms, and they like, dude, these people are doing better. These people just left slavery and they're doing better than our best who never had slavery.
Right. That's another big question. Was it really all that about that slavery that they got that smart and was able to build an economy that way, or was it always that way? And we just read these slavery stories in books.
That I didn't even want to get into. I didn't even get into that. But yeah, you're right. There's the whole propaganda.
Because you got to think about it. Let's think about how you're programmed. Studies have showed if someone from 0 to 7, someone is programmed, and that's pretty much how they're going to be for the rest of their life. So if you got slaves that were programmed to be slaves from 0 to 7, there's no way that they're coming out of slavery and they're going to build these super economies in such a short amount of time.
Doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. The science don't even go with that. So what I'm trying to say is, and I'm going to say it flat out, they lied about slavery when it came to us. They lied. We were already here doing it. Everything. They came over here and we were fighting amongst each other. Then they were able to flip the script on us by what? Forcing us into their educational system. Remember, our kids go into those systems at a very young age. So as the older people dying out, remembering what it was really like and not sharing those stories. And think about it, when you send a kid to school and he's being programmed by the school, he's not listening to his parents anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
Who's the authority on information now or education? So over time, think about it's the same thing they're doing with the whole genderism thing, right? When we came up, a man was a man, a woman is a woman. Now, if a guy wanted to be a woman, he's a man acting like a woman. He's not a woman. So think about a generation of two. If this keeps going on, it's going to be a full blown. We're going to be saying, well, if a man want to be a woman, he can be called a woman. That's what's going to happen eventually if they keep down this road, and it's going to be normal.
Yeah, that's scary, bro.
You see what I'm saying? They know the science. They know what they're doing when they push these agendas, and they use these. I got to point them out. All of the Democratic stations are on board with all of this stuff.
Yeah, you know,
and they're the states with the most crime and degeneracy.
Yeah. Oregon got rid of the graduation competency test because they said it was racist. So they have no test to graduate now. You literally could be an idiot and get your diploma.
Uneducated people are the best slaves. People who have no interest in knowing anything are the best people to get to follow orders. You see, just think about it. The more you study and you learn stuff and you really get the information, you be like, wait a minute, something don't make sense here. You see what I'm saying? And then you start critically thinking and like, wait a minute. People like us is not good for their economy.
No,
it's not.
But we're not really a threat because at the same time, team. You got to look at like our videos, bro. 1 in 10,000 of a is going to really listen because all they got to do is put us next to like, one of these rappers with a grill and a bag. And they're like, oh, Akiem, I'm going to go over here and get the bag, bro.
Right. Yeah. I'm not, they're not clicking on to hear this information. Only the people that really want to know what's going on is going to actually click on it. And I know that.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm not going to stoop to the level of what I see a lot of these YouTube channels, and a lot of our brothers are doing it. Let's leave the sisters out of it. They just gossip all the time.
Yeah,
talking about each other. This one did that. He's this and that, going back and forth. And I'm like, this is what we've come to as men.
Yeah,
and we wonder why our women are not really respecting us because the people that's out there in the front are not respectable.
Now,
think about it.
Who do you think? You think Puffy pissed somebody off?
He had to.
Bill Cosby, bro.
Oh, he's on his way. Whatever it is, he didn't give up.
Now, do you think it's the master? Somebody wants his collection? Could be.
He might be. They want all his music, all that money. Yeah.
I mean, because R. Kelly gave his up.
Always the case.
Bill Cosby.
They still send him to jail.
Yeah. So I just found it kind of like all this stuff from 2003, 2002, 2000.
Like old stuff. Like how did we? But they're lawsuits. They're not actually criminal cases. But
no.
Best believe that's following.
Yes. And it's just all of a sudden. So it's like, I don't know. I think, like you said, when you cease to be of value, these people have a way of going ahead and destroying you.
Now, here's the thing. It's not too many black men in the entertainment industry that will not have a run-in with that in those scenarios. One way or the other, they're gonna come after them. You see, look at all of our Wesley Snipes, IRS, Red Fox. Who else? You got Bill Cosby, and he was, and Bill Cosby's was American Dad, and Bill Cosby played a great role in promoting their system through the Cosby Show.
Yeah, yeah.
He promoted the whole high school to college ideal in the 2-parent working home that they wanted to create the tax model off of. He did that. Think about it. Think about our mind is before the Cosby Show.
But Bill thought he was big enough to go buy NBC.
He went past listen. Those Negroes that making all that money, and especially if they're paying them, forget one thing after they be there for a while. You're not one of them, number one. Number two, you can only move but so far off this plantation. Okay, we're gonna give you the best spot of the plantation, but you still gonna be on the plantation, and your ass is not to leave that portion. You're not gonna be an owner of the plantation. You're just gonna be working for the plantation. Yeah, I'm gonna give you millions of dollars, but you're gonna work for this plantation. You cannot own the plantation.
Yeah.
You see, and that's was his problem. That the first time he tried it, all of a sudden his son came up dead.
That was a warning.
Second time he tried it, the blackmail of the woman who said she was his daughter.
Yeah.
The third time he tried it, all of these women came out. Yeah. And so you don't get enough, huh? We're gonna put you in jail now.
Yeah. You want to keep trying.
Even if we got to trump the charges up, he's out now, but even we have to trump it up, we're gonna let you spend a little time. They knew that whole case was a sham.
Yeah.
But they knew they could pay people off to get them in there for a short time. They didn't care about the long term. Like people was like some of our sisters like, he got out, and they believed this crap. He got out, he's a rapist, he's this, that, and the other. And I'm like, the game wasn't to keep him in there for life. The game was just to destroy him just enough. They just want the image.
And that's a warning sign to you other Negroes who think you ever want to do what he did.
Right. That's it. That's the real game. That's not calling him a rapist, because at the time all of that stuff was going on, the women were willing to participants. But then later on they found a way to make some money off of it. Now they're saying something.
Now, check that out. What you just said, right? It wasn't to keep men there the whole time. It was to set an example. Now, have you seen that they let Ron Jeremy out?
Ron Jeremy, fresh my memory.
Ron Jeremy, the porn guy. Remember, he had all the rape.
Oh yeah.
So now he's incompetent. So he's on home confined, bro. He got convicted for like 20, 30 some years, but they said Ron is not able to function. Therefore, he's no longer a threat. So he's home now, and he's gonna be for the rest of his time.
The game. It's a game,
dude.
They had to appease the public opinion that they did something about it. Now he played crazy. Now they sent him home. Who? The average brother's not getting that. Your ass gonna stand there crazy.
And Ron was a gatekeeper for a lot of them doing all the freaky shit they were doing.
Right.
So hey.
The government is full of pedophiles, so all kinds.
I found that pretty. I said, "What? This guy now? He's turned crazy, and there's like Ron will be." I'm like, I've never heard of that. Have you?
You just go to a mental institution and stay there. But now you can go home and be crazy now.
Dude, this shit is crazy, man. I mean, it's we're at a time of conscious awakening, though, bro. And it's like when you hear. That's why you can never knock the messenger, and that's why even listening to Charleston White or some of the stuff we talk about, or some of these other channels where you have people who expose like the different banking systems. You look at the messenger and you're looking for some guy in a suit that looks like Grant Cardone. He's not the one. It's the most
discounted dude you can find, and the only reason why he's talking like that is to get people's attention.
Yes. But I always say it could be a guy like almost like in that movie, what's the guy's name was Quaid, remember? And he was the guy with all the knowledge, and he looked like he was like an alien, but he knew everything that was going on in this particular world. But that's the guy with the game, the guy sitting there in the corner, and you would never know that that's the person who has the information that's going to change your life.
Right. Right. And that the thing is, Charleston White is very intelligent.
Oh, yeah. He's a sharp dude.
Way ignorant, but he said it. I had to talk this way because that's the only way I could reach him.
Yeah, no, he did exactly
said,
right.
What you can't talk to a kid who grew up in these dysfunctional environment coming, hey, young man, and this and that. You can't, they're not listening to you. You gotta talk to them what they relate to, and then stir them in the right direction. And he's got a point. Yeah. You gotta be in their language, how they communicate in order to get to
it. Well, because if you don't, as soon as you start talking, they automatically shut down.
Right. Right.
I had a doctor I interviewed. He was a dentist. He had 13 practices and very successful. Grew up, I want to say, I can't remember, North Carolina somewhere. Almost got caught up over something, and but made the right choice, but almost ended up, I think, almost like he said, he could have almost shot somebody over a weed deal or something bad, but he ended up going to college and made it out of there. And he talked very proper, but if you heard the guy, you're like, oh, this guy's a square. This guy grew up, he was around some elements, but he made a choice that changed his life when he decided to go to college and become a dentist, sold his practice for like 13, 14 million, drives a Rolls Royce. And he told me, like, he's gotten pulled over and people ask him, like, what are you doing in this car? I mean, he's got to sweat it, and this guy's very professional. But you see people and you assume things. And and that's the thing about our culture is you never know. And I've been places, and I don't know if you probably experienced this, and you'll be talking with somebody and they'll say, so what do you do? And you're looking at the dude like, how the conversation jumped from us talking about art or this to what do I do? I didn't ask you what you do, but they're curious because if you're the way you talk and to be at this place, you intrigue me. What do you do to get here? Because I know what I did, but what do you do?
Right. Yeah, they get confused. They're like, okay, how did this guy get here? And especially when they start hearing you talk. I get that question all the time. Like, what kind of, like, I'm in a room full of people. I don't give a damn what they do, because what they do don't mean nothing. They're like, what is it going to do for me to know what they do?
Exactly.
Especially they're all working people, just people with regular jobs. I'm not really interested in knowing what they do, but they always want to know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I just answer them, hey, people just pay me to hear my opinion. That's it.
Oh, man.
I don't go into the detail, because if I go down a rabbit hole, I'm going to lose them.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. It's actually funny. I like going places like that, and I always look at the room and people like looking to see who's looking at you, because I'll go places and I'll walk by and I'll see somebody. They don't want to make eye contact when they walk by, though. They'll double take, like,
right.
Like
it's one of our people. They be like, what's this nigga doing here? I should be the only nigga here.
Yeah.
That's really what's going on. Like, what's this? And you get those looks like, okay, you want to be the only head Negro up in here, I guess. It's always like that.
It's funny, bro.
They'll be the last ones to speak to you, too. Everybody else will talk to you.
I don't know why we do that. When you talk about that, I remember going to a car event, and it was a Lamborghini event in Newport. And, I brought my old school, and I'm walking around there. It's only me and maybe three other black people. There's one guy walking. He's got a Lamborghini. He's got the tight-ass jacket on. He's walking with his son. I said, hey, man, how you doing, man? Nice car. He looked at me like, Negro, did I ask you if you asked me about my – I mean, he looked at me. I'm looking at the dude, and I said, hey, man, you enjoying the event? And he gave me like a little – but he's like, Negro, I don't want them to know that I talk to other Negroes.
Right. That's
almost that look,
That's sad.
It is sad.
It really is sad that we can't go into different settings and just get along and show unity. We have to act like we are better than each other.
Or we could be, we're the only one allowed at the particular venue.
I'm special. I'm the special one. Yeah. I've seen that so many times. Yeah.
Hey man, I love having you come on, man, and we're gonna have to do this more often. And this time I made sure it recorded.
Recorded.
So,
Okay.
so
All
we
right.
good, man. But hey, thank you, man. And
Thanks for having me on.
we're gonna tap in, man, because like we need to get this out here so these young people can hear some game, bro.
Okay. All right, man. Peace. Peace.
Peace,
Have
man.
a good one. All right.
Kid. Officially, I only got one real spanking my entire life. My mom did the best a 14-year-old could do, raising me with love and instilling values that will last a lifetime. I was a straight A student and lived to make her happy. So how did I go astray? A horrible stepdad that stole my self-worth and invoked fear turned me into a person that I struggled to overcome. From skateboarding to selling drugs, gang banging in juvenile hall, I got caught the same way many young promising men get caught up. I struggled to find my identity, getting mixed up in shootouts, crime, and the adult entertainment industry. This roller coaster continued as I juggled college, hustling, and Hollywood, eventually catching a federal bank robbery case. I found redemption in prison while serving a 120-month federal sentence and came out a man on a mission. I became a social media influencer with over 500 million views on YouTube and a life coach mentoring people all over the world. This is my journey against all odds.